Dr. Bivin Sadler is a director, MS Data Science at Southern Methodist University. In this next session, we'll address one of the most pressing challenges in modern education, the impact of generative AI on traditional assessments. Please welcome Dr. Bivin Sadler, who will be sharing insights from his university statistics courses on how we can rediscover the power of oral exams. As you listen, think about how we can promote deeper learning and academic integrity in the age of AI. I'm going to pass it over to you, Bivin, and let you get started.
All right. Well, thanks, Mike. Thank everybody that's here. This is going to be awesome. We're all educators. We're all in higher education. I'm just so pumped to be here, and thanks for the opportunity. And let's get started because everyone's got a real passion for what we're doing in education, and that Gen AI can enhance us, but it certainly also has the opportunity and is kind of flexing that opportunity at times to be a detractor. So we want to turn it into the positive. So, Mike, hopefully that speaker is going, but I'm going to go ahead and we'll see that a little bit later. But I'm going to jump into my slides here.
We are good. Thank you. That last one did it. Yep, we're all good. Go for it.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's jump in. Again, thanks to Los Angeles Pacific University. Thanks to everybody here. Thanks to Nick here. And let's go ahead. AI compromised traditional assessment, but what can we do with oral? So we can implement oral exams to help fight this. But of course, oral exams aren't scalable. But with AI, maybe they are. So let's check it out. So I think everybody's familiar with EDUCAUSE and with all of the articles and blog posts that are coming out now, with everyone kind of reflecting on what Gen AI means to our field, to our passion. And some are positive, some are negative. This one's just saying Gen AI and the challenge it poses to higher education, and kind of shows both. Since the initial ascent of Gen AI in late 2022, we in higher education community have largely ricocheted from one extreme, panic about the death of college essay, to the other extreme, promises about the potential to improve educational efficiency. We're going to address both of those today in a short period of time. This is one on the panic side, maybe not on the panic side, but certainly more on the negative-ish side. But I highly recommend this article. It is raw, it is unfiltered, it is just one professor's real opinion. And I think from what I've heard and from even my own experience, a lot of these are reflected, a lot of his feelings are reflected in this blog post. But this is one of the many quotes that I ended up having a faculty meeting yesterday and sharing a whole bunch of quotes from this article. But I'm not alone in feeling exasperated by this predicament. A survey about 30,000 college faculty, this was from the College Board, so a real reputable source, showed that 85% felt LLMs make students less likely to develop critical thinking abilities, which is a big, of course, deliverable and student learning outcome of what we do in higher education, in education in general. And 72% reported challenges in managing LLM use. So this is just another survey, but a very large survey reflecting kind of this challenge that AI represents to assessment, to critical thinking, but then to us some other things. I looked at some of these other percentages here. 89% said they were worried about students using it for basic tasks, just basic ones that we could probably think about if we just thought about it for a couple minutes, or we could do it in a couple minutes. They're just offloading it there. Original ideas. That's another big piece of what we want to do, is open it, have people explore their creativity and have people open up to what they're able to do and gain confidence and gain the ability and know they have the ability to accomplish their dreams through original ideas. And then of course, to really understand something, and that's how we all got here to do our passion of teaching, we had to really understand something at depth, and that is deeply engaging deeply with course material. And a lot, 84%, the vast majority, are reporting that they're worried about these Gen AI tools interfering with that ability to really connect with the material. So, like I said, we're going to look at both sides, but Turnitin also reflecting that same thing, that 95% of the people in their survey last year said they were looking at misuse of AI, of generative AI by their students, by university students. And I've seen it myself. This is, I meant to open up with what I do. My name is Dr. Bivin Sadler, just Bivin Sadler, but I direct the Masters of Science and Data Science program at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. I've taught in the program since 2014 and directed the program since 2018. And I think a lot of us are, it's a completely online program. And so, but it's got an hour and a half of async video material with follow-ups and concept check questions with an hour and a half of Zoom. So it's got a live component, but it also has an async component. So that's kind of the world that I come from. But I deliver, this is an online delivered final exam. And I went back about 2 months ago and looked at the averages over time. We use Canvas. And so I went and looked at those averages, and these were the averages. And lo and behold, starting right about 2022, where AI came out late, Gen AI, ChatGPT came out late in 2022, and then got better and better and better. And the adoption became more and more and more. So it's certainly a correlation, not definitively a causation, but I believe it's causing that, at least to some extent. As the other deliverables there were, of course, vocabulary. I start to see vocabulary in my tests in these later years that I don't use in the course, or that I didn't see students using previously. AI style formatting, like the bullet points and the little gray line that you see sometimes, those sometimes pop up in exams. And answers were some of them were just really, they're using methods that we hadn't taught in class that I really hadn't seen anybody use way back here. And so just some hints like that. And some are really robust answers that would have been really hard to produce in the 3-hour window. I personally proctor it online, and they have from 11 to 2, so 3 hours to complete the exam. So some tools that we have out there previously that we've used before that I didn't use in this exam, simply because remote proctors are nice, but I'm there to proctor it. And we get a lot of false positives, or at least we did when we were using some of these remote proctoring tools. Lockdown browsers are nice, but for our online programs, we have multiple screens. Some people have multiple CPUs running. There's nothing really to check that. It's getting better, but and we can always improve, as we'll see here. But lockdown browsers weren't the answer for me. And AI detectors, right? We've got Turnitin for plagiarism. They have an AI detector out there, and there's some other ones, but there's a lot of false positives and a lot of false negatives. So there's a lot of uncertainty out there, even with these protecting tools. And what we're going to look at in oral exams offers so many more advantages than just a more secure test and returning the signal that we want assessments to truly reflect in our students. So a solution is the viva voce. Viva voce is the old school term for the oral exam. It's the same exact thing, where it's authentic, right? It measures genuine understanding. We're right there with the student, and it can be adaptive. It's authentic largely because it's adaptive, because I can ask them a follow-up question based on what their response is, and I can hear it. Sometimes they would give me a response, but it sounds like there's uncertainty there. So I can double down on it. I can double click on it. Every test is different for every student, because they're all going to respond differently. And you get those other verbal cues, nonverbal cues, to help you understand, if they understand the material, and where to ask next. And then there's gaining traction, right? I think we've probably all seen some report of oral exams returning after maybe an 800-year hiatus. So NYU, Vanderbilt, UC San Diego, just a couple of schools that have published actually studies on their implementation of oral exams. And certainly there are many, many more, SMU included, and probably many of your schools, if not all of them, that are trying out oral exams. So my oral exam that I use here is the Stat 1 Viva. So I teach statistics. I'm data science, but I'm really statistics first. I launched it in 2023, conducted via Zoom, as I said. It is a pass-fail test. So I use it. It's very high stakes. They can't pass the course without passing it, but try to take a little anxiety off by the students can retake the exam if they fail it, which means a lot more time for them, right? They got to come back and go study and take it again. And it's a lot more time for me. So we'll get there, but that's the excerpt from my syllabus. Again, students must pass the oral exam to pass the class. And they've got a little link here to practice. And that's one of the things I was going to talk about today, to share today. But there is a lot of anxiety for students, of course, on their side. I took a survey of some of my students recently last year. And this was if they remembered how were their overall emotions, and where everyone went from extremely negative all the way to extremely positive. You could see that a lot of them were kind of uncertain. But by the time, this is the ending, if you remember overall the emotions after the oral exam, all of them had chosen a side, and most of them had said, hey, it was a positive experience. And I can always get better and understand where these, why this was a negative experience and why they reported that. And we can always get better with exams. That's the beauty of our side of education, of the pedagogy side and of the innovation design. But it was really interesting to see here that the majority found it to be a positive experience. But even more than that, even those that didn't find it, most everyone found that it was accurately assessed their understanding. One disagreed and a couple were neutral, but even these that still had a negative feeling about it, many of them may have found that it was somewhat accurate. But even if they didn't, even if some of these were in the neutral zone, this was the reporting for the oral exam helped me identify gaps in my knowledge. And just like that, everyone agreed that that was a really good thing to have in an exam, is to identify where a student thought they might have understood, but found that there was some kind of missing link there that they needed to fill in. And then finally, as we looked earlier about deeper learning, the oral exam encouraged deeper learning than a traditional written exam would have. Almost everyone agreed that was the case. Even those three that did not still had negative opinions, still found great value in this deeper learning component of these oral exams. So did it work? I'm going to say that yes, these oral exams worked. I'm kind of underlining this with the effectiveness of oral exams. So this is just showing what we just did. They were accurate. 83% found that they were positive, that they were accurate or extremely accurate. 100% found gap identification, and 94% found that they increased their deeper learning. And that's very consistent with where I was over the last 3 years of implementing this oral exam. So I've been doing it since 2023. Whew. So student feedback. I had a lot of student feedback on this survey. Just looking at that one. Just read the first line here. The oral exams are intimidating, but they are truly among the best learning experiences I've had in an online program. We're all accustomed to being able to find answers instantly, either by searching or using generative AI. You can read through that, but that was the main point. But the last line here, so there's really nothing like the oral exam in terms of testing the ability to synthesize and articulate one's knowledge. It truly pushed me to develop a stronger understanding of the material. So a big endorsement, in my opinion, here of oral exams. So, what else can they do besides enabling assessment? They can they will enhance AI's the students' ability to go with AI, to use AI in their classes, to use real world skills, right? We want them to be able to communicate. We want them to be able to do interviews. That's what all of our big data advisory board and community partners, industry say that they want from graduates, is the ability to communicate. And it re-enables homeworks that they may be kind of outsourcing to AI. The readings, the homeworks, the concept checks now all go into the exam, which really go on to true deep learning.
Bivin, so real quick, we have a question in the chat. I think is really pertinent at this point. What does Viva Voca mean?
So Viva Voce means oral exam. That's a lot of times the Viva Voce is just a term for oral exam. It was used in the 1600s in England. It was called the disputato back in Latin days. But a lot of times they call it the Viva. And so PhD students will say, hey, have you taken your Viva? So it's just an oral exam.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Cool. Yep. Thanks. So I'll get to the point, though. We've underlined, I think we all kind of believed oral exams were maybe a useful assessment. There is an elephant in the room, and that elephant is scaling the Viva. Thanks for that question. The Viva Voca. So the Voce. So scaling the oral exam, how can we do it? Because it's hard for 10 to 15 students, much less 30, much less 100 or 200, or maybe more that we have in some of our classes. So in mind, like I've kind of noticed, small classes, they're tough, practically impossible at scale. About 45 minutes per student is what it can be. But somebody that really knows it could do an oral exam in 10 minutes. I'm giving my oral exams right now. One of my semesters is wrapping up. We're about to start the summer. And it's really fun to work with students. It's really fun to kind of get to talk with them. But if somebody really knows it, they can answer these questions and pass the oral exam in 10 minutes. And it's really a fun process for everybody. But there was the Chronicle of Education said, this was a recent article, to stay at the forefront of knowledge production, we must fit technology to our needs. The other one that I mentioned we were going to use here was the quote from the beginning from that EDUCAUSE article. let's talk about the second one, the promise and the potential to improve educational efficiency. How can we use Gen AI to enhance what we're doing as a force multiplier for education? And so that's where I want to pop on over here. And this is the app. The idea is that students can practice for my live oral exam. I still use live oral exams. We could end up using this to fully deliver a grade and report to Canvas, but I still use this because my students wanted to practice. But of course, I barely have time to give the exam, not enough, let alone enough time to practice it. So, I wanted to demo this for you real quick. Students can come out at 3 in the morning. It's AI driven, ChatGPT on the back end, but we'll go ahead and start the test here.
What are the 3 branches of the U.S. government, and what does each do?
The 3 branches of the U.S. government are the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. The executive branch executes the laws, the legislative branch writes the laws, and the judicial branch interprets the laws.
What role does the judicial branch play in resolving disagreements or conflicts?
The judicial branch has a series of courts, including appellate courts, that helps those who have disagreements or conflicts over the law resolve those conflicts. That can go all the way up to the Supreme Court that has the ultimate say. So in that one, probably not going to give me another. Yeah, I think that was fairly complete. So that one should give me 100. We could play around with it some more. We're on a little bit of time here, but if I wouldn't have said that, if I would have just said, I don't know, it's listening to my response and then getting a custom follow-up question. We call it a follow-up question, a custom follow-up question based on what my response was. I left out part of the answer on the judicial side. If a student wanted to know, hey, I said this, but it graded me wrong, they can come down here to the conversation. That is kind of a very nice laid out idea that fully records the whole conversation of what a link has said and what the student said in case there's any disagreements, or just for the student to study. It'll give you study answers, so on and so forth. So it's much more robust than that. I wanted to also show you one where I didn't give a quite complete answer. It'll give you less than 100. But for now, let's just pop on back over here. I'll wrap it up. Student feedback on Olympus is the name of this app that we use. This was confidence in speaking, understanding key concepts, ability to structure answers, ability to use technical jargon correctly, reduction of anxiety. We used to call it Viva Voca. Now we call it Olympus. Helped in ways not listed. A couple other ones down here. One of them is it did not improve my interpretation. One person grabbed that. There's always room to improve, but by and large, huge value. And it's the verbal response too, that students really appreciate being able to practice. That really reduces their anxiety coming into the exam. And I give them 18 questions to study, and I ask them 2. So I get really in-depth studying on 18 questions from the course when I only have to ask them 2 in the assessment. And again, that could be 10 minutes to fully assess somebody, doing the oral exam if they really know what they're doing. And they know more of what they're doing when they've practiced it, and using Olympus, which is getting better all the time, can help them do that. This is one student's feedback from that. Olympus was very useful to me because the only opportunity I had to speak my answers out loud with a knowledgeable, critical audience prior to the exam. Study partners might be less inclined to be critical, and they're not always available, while friends and spouses probably don't have the domain experience to give feedback. Of course, we have office hours and class periods, but this was a way that they could practice anytime. So moving forward, using AI for tools like Olympus, enable, like just to kind of wrap this up, but the last bullet point on this is really my big point, is I have found it's unlimited practice. And from that, it cuts down exam time. Like we just said, it unlocks all those benefits of oral exams, from practicing for interviews to enabling the homework again, to making that useful in their learning, to using AI as a tutor and not as somebody to offload assignments to. Daily use in place of discussion boards. I'm going to start using it in my next class. We're starting the summer semester, as I said. I'm going to use it as a low stakes practice. So they just kind of come in, they take it, they can take it as many times as they need to pass, and then they'll put the put that score, they'll submit that score report to Canvas and I'll grade them that way. So we're going to see how that works. We're just exploring, right? This is brand new stuff. Deliver the full oral exam. Eventually, Olympus will be, we're working on this LTI here, but eventually this will be able to report pretty soon scores directly to Canvas. And we've had a lot of talks with faculty about that, but it makes it even more scalable, right? It scales it to as far as you want to go. And you can flag suspicious, like it's got a camera, so you can flag suspicious oral exams, just like a remote proctor would, and then deliver them in a final oral exam. You can allow students to request an oral exam, a live one if they wanted it. So maybe if you were 100 students, you would have to do 10 oral exams. I do think we may have to, but who knows, right? We may have to change the way we do things, especially in really large courses. But if we could do 10% oral exams instead of doing 100 students, just do 10, that's probably a step in the right direction. And then, of course, it unlocks all those benefits of oral exams we discussed earlier. But this is the big one. We will innovate. You will innovate. Everyone has a really exciting idea of how to use tools like this, or how to improve tools like this, or how to invent your own tool to solve these problems that are really not even problems. They're challenges that are eventually going to help us be even more effective in the classroom. So, so how would you use tools like Olympus, or even invent tools like Olympus, or where do we go from here? So I would love to continue this discussion. There's my email at the bottom. Lots of opportunities to collaborate, but I really appreciate the opportunity to speak. And with that, I'll open it up to questions. Mike, that's it for
awesome. Me. Yeah, thank you, Bivin. We've got one really interesting question. They ask, and I think your answer may come from some of what you shared recently, but have you found that some students are using their phones with an LLM on speech mode to come up with answers during oral exams? But you mentioned a camera. How does that play into your assessment once you get the AI assessment?
Great question. I really want to answer it. I don't know what you guys see right now. You see my screen still?
No, your screen share is gone.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm just right here.
You can share it back if you want, but we got you up on the screen.
If you can see me, yeah, we'll have it. I know where I am. I just wanted to see everybody else. So I think everybody's right there. There we go. So, yes, I've had that. I've had students just like this. Here's their phone. And at the moment, Gen AI is changing all the time. So who knows what the next thing or where the screens are. So, but at this time, since I'm live talking with them, there's a delay. You can see it's listening. Right? The phone was listening, and I've said it looks like you are talking with ChatGPT. So now I have them. I actually have a sheet of paper I send out. So I have them with their hands like this, and so they have to kind of have their whole screen. And at the moment, you can tell, like I can tell, and I can double click, and I can ask them and say, hey, it looks like you're looking at something. But students like to think like this, right? Students like to think looking around and staring at different places. So at least they're not holding their phone if they're doing that. And if I think that they are doing something, I'm in control of the follow-up. So I always have a shared screen where I'll show them a plot. I'm a stats professor, so I'll show them a plot. I'll show them something that would be tough to copy and paste into an LLM, something that would take a little bit more time. So you can ask them further questions. The student that I'm talking about eventually kind of confessed to it. And of course, we went into the dangers of using Gen AI. This app, it doesn't exist yet. We're in full development of it, but this app will detect things like eye movement, just like remote proctors will now. And what it does, right? Could be a false positive. Could be a false positive that would flag it for somebody to come back. I was talking about before. To say, and we need to give you a live oral exam, and then you can follow up with them like that.
That's awesome. That sounds really great. Someone asked if you could share the Olympus website if someone was interested in piloting this or testing this out with their own schools or systems. Where would they go to do that?
You will email me right now. We are in hot development of this, but if anyone is interested in trying this out, we are interested not only in like letting you use it for free, but partnering with you or collaborating to see, to get feedback or to see where we can go from there. So just please give me an email. All I have to do is put your email into Olympus, and you'll have you'll have the ability. I know we're on to the next one here, but I can just show this. If I did this and do this, share screen, entire screen. I shouldn't have unshared it.
You're good. You're good, man.
Audience. Okay, great. So if I come back here, you give us your an email, and then we will put you into the system. And then if I refresh here, this is what you'll see. So you'll have a teacher account. So it'll say whatever your first letter of your name is here. I have an admin view because I'm an admin, but you'll have a test. And from that test, well, we can go back to test where you can create a test. So I've already created this test called DDS test, but you can create a test. But once you've created a test, you can add questions. So you come in, you add the questions. So I want to know about the 3 branches of government. So I'd in fact, you can see it right here. That's add a question. But if I edit a question, what are the so you just write that into the question. What are the 3 branches of the U.S. government? What does each do? And the expected answer. Let me go back. So if I go back to tests, DDS, questions. So there it is. So you would put that in, and this is what you would see at the end. What are the 3 branches of the U.S. government? And then you put this in. You put in your expected answer, but it is powered by ChatGPT 4.0 on the back end. Actually, ChatGPT 4.0 now on the back end. So it can supplement this answer if a student says something outside of this, but is pretty close to this. It it can kind of figure that out on the back end. But you put what you want, what you studied in class, in here, and it will assess it. And you can, of course, add as many questions as you want. You can have as many tests as you want, and just give us your email, and you'll have access to this. And that's how you log in. It's super secure. When you want to deliver a test, you share it. So this is what you would give to your student. So you would just give this to your student, and then they would need this login to log in. So it's super secure for your student, super secure for you. And finally, it doesn't record any student information, right? It's totally, there's no privacy issues. It's not recording any student's name, it's not asking anything from the student. You just deliver that link. It'll deliver the question. It'll grade it based on the expected response and fire out a score.
That is awesome. What a great thing that you're working with there.
Thank you.